Good afternoon and welcome back to the afternoon session of the UK Tech Cluster Group Recovery Roadmap. You are joining me. I'm Katie Gallagher, the Managing Director of Manchester Digital, in the session where we talk to some of the region's major employers and understand their role in developing their local tech industries. We'll find out why their location matters and also understand a bit more about their priorities. I think it's safe to say that tech clusters perform at their best when ecosystems have a diverse range of businesses. That's both in terms of output, but also in terms of size. Having large employers in your ecosystem helps with more than just direct employment. If they have high value functions such as R&D, it can lead to spin-outs. Employees will leave and start up new businesses. And if those employers are entrenched in their communities and understand their role in supporting smaller businesses, having good grad and apprenticeship schemes and all that kind of stuff, then they become even more valuable to the regions they operate in. And again, their impact on the regional economy is even greater. So thank you so much to Alison, Natasha and Rob for joining us. And probably before we get going, it's worth pointing out that today is Natasha's birthday. She's actually got the day off today. And so she's very kindly sacrificed birthday cake and gin to join us and talk about regional economic development, because she's clearly so very passionate about it.
How else did I spend my birthday?
Well, there is that to it. For those of you who've joined us, on the right-hand side, you will see the chat column. If you have questions you want to pose to the panel, I will keep my eye on that column and try and bring them in. But bear in mind that we have only got 30 minutes, so these are fairly pacey panels. And to that point, I'm going to dive straight in. And as well as asking my panel to quickly introduce themselves, their organisations and the regions they're based in, I'd also like them to tell us what role their company plays in supporting the ecosystem and what responsibility do they feel to their wider communities. Would anybody like to start with that? I'm looking at you, Alison.
Oh, I was about to say everyone's so polite. Well, yeah, okay, I'll go. So I'm Alison Ross. I'm on the leadership team at Auto Trader, and I've been there for close to 20 years now, horrifyingly, frankly. My role is best described as a kind of hybrid HR, CIO type mashup. And it's a mix of those two weird disciplines, because we believe as a digital and tech firm, the approach we take to tech and the approach we take to people are super intertwined. And that's very much how we inform our engineering-based culture. I'm also proud to be the chair of Manchester Digital. So Auto Trader has a long heritage. We've been around for 45 years-ish. We were a magazine, and over the last 10 to 15 years, we've been transitioning to be an entirely digital business. We now employ somewhere around 850 people, 600 of whom are based in the centre of Manchester. So in terms of how we think about the community and the community in which we're based, I think it's fair to say that Auto Trader have very much so been on a journey with this over time. In times gone past, when we were a print publication, we had 40 offices around the UK, and we had very little connection to those communities, really. They were just kind of offices on industrial estates. At that point, we employed around 4,500 people. So we've lost a lot of people over time. And as we migrated from being a print business to a digital business, we started shutting all those offices down, really. And what we realised during that time was actually we could have quite a profound effect on local economies and local communities. Some of those offices were in places of quite high unemployment, actually. And sometimes we had quite a lot of call centres, that kind of thing. And sometimes we were employing whole families. So actually, we're proud of the way that we managed those closures. And, we believe that we looked after people. But we really did have to face reality of what we were doing. And it was very sobering. It was the right thing to do. I mean, companies that did not react to the fact that print was a dying medium are not with us now. But it was an extremely difficult time, and it made us rethink quite a lot of things about how we were going to operate in the future. So when we did our sort of final rounds of office consolidation, the last sort of offices in the Northwest, we consolidated into Manchester city centre in 2013. And we knew then that as a 600-person tech employer in the city, we definitely wanted to do things differently. We didn't want to just occupy a space in the building. We really wanted to be part of the community. And that's actually when we got involved with Manchester Digital. It was kind of a way in for us to kind of put down some roots. I think it's fair to say that now the responsibility we feel to the community is a huge part of our culture. And certainly we recruit and retain people on that basis. We added community minded to our values a couple of years ago. Our values are really big at Auto Trader, and they're not just words on the wall. It's almost sickening the way everybody buys into the values. And the way we consider that responsibility to community does manifest in lots of different ways. So that might be our responsibility to represent the diversity in the city in terms of the people that we employ. It might be about how we support local community groups and charities. And in terms of the ecosystem, it is very much, and we really believe in this, kind of being a responsible employer. We are one of the bigger employers. We've got reasonably deep pockets, although we are having a tough time at the moment, I think it's fair to say. But we think it's so important that the way we pay, the way we recruit, the benefits we offer we don't overly take advantage of our size, because that generally just means that you end up penalising smaller companies. It hurts the ecosystem, and it's no way to behave. So our responsibility to the community and the ecosystem are very much intertwined.
Okay, thank you. Who would like to go next?
Go on, birthday girl.
Yeah, go on, Natasha.
Hello there, my name is Natasha Sosalem. I am one of the heads of technology at Sky, and I am based, well, at the moment at home, but normally in our wonderful office at Leeds Dock. Sky have never been a London-centric business. You know, we have offices all over the United Kingdom because our customers are all over the place. And, you know, to kind of put it into context, just as Alison had, we connect 24 million customers over 7 European countries, and Sky has owned over 6.5 million homes. We became the world's first carbon neutral media company in 2006, and we've now set our ambitions to be net zero carbon across our entire value chain by 2030. We're obviously investing huge amounts now in award-winning content. Obviously, a number of you probably watched the BAFTAs. We did very well for our Sky Original Chernobyl. We're launching brand new channels like Sky Documentaries and Sky Nature, and history channels now becoming Sky History. And so during lockdown, for example, Sky News saw an increase in 230% increase in viewing. So obviously the lockdown has been a really interesting time for us at Sky. With Leeds, we're incredibly proud to be in Leeds. We came to Leeds because it had an incredible, vibrant community and access to skills and talent. And what we really noticed that there was a kind of gap in Leeds where, you know, we could see from the data that we were seeing on LinkedIn and on job boards that there were a lot of people looking for a job at that point, and potentially a really big gap for us to kind of come in and gain access to that great talent. But for us, it isn't about just taking, it is about investing in the future. So we have our Sky Academy, we have obviously graduate and apprentice intakes, but we also launched our award-winning Get Into Tech, which is a absolutely free 3-month coding course to get more women into tech. And over 600 women have completed that course. 1 in 4 of those women now work at Sky. And what's really great is a number of the women who chose that they didn't want to go to Sky ended up in other companies like the NHS. And so we're effectively building those skills in the region. And obviously doing lots of outreach as well, which I'm sure there'll be questions about, kind of doing lots of external events and obviously giving back to the community.
Okay, thank you. Rob?
Hello, I'm Rob Wheeler, and I'm working in engineering at a Nationwide Building Society. I think for Nationwide, everything we do is about building society, hence our name. And we play with those two words quite a lot, from us being a building society to also us building society, and partly back to our roots being mutual, and everything we focus on is our members and doing the right thing for them. So things like, we are based primarily, our head offices in Swindon, where we've been for a long time. We've got offices in Northampton, Bournemouth, and in London. And we do things across the UK, but we also focus on those kind of regional areas as well quite a lot, specifically Swindon, and specifically Swindon because there's a big tech hub there from our perspective. And also trying to support some of the things that are going on. So Honda, for example, moving out of Swindon, there's a big role that we play to try and help fill some of that and support those people potentially as part of that. So there are other things that are going on. We've got a project in Swindon again, where we're doing a not-for-profit building some houses. So we're building and trying to push the boundaries of maybe building on brownfield sites other builders wouldn't have moved on to try and demonstrate that there is a viable option and there are different ways of doing house building that we need across the UK. Through things like community grants, where we're awarding out, something between £10,000 and £50,000 for charities and other projects across the UK, across 11 regions, to support the challenges that they may well be facing in the current climate. So lots of stuff around community. As a society, we're generally moving. We had, if I'm really honest, we outsourced quite a lot of our IT in the past. And at the moment, we're insourcing quite a lot of that and rebalancing. So we've got probably about 2,500 people in IT. Of that, we're now probably about 1,500 are permanent staff. But it may be slightly shy of that, slightly less than that, but around that kind of number. And gradually, we're then trying to insource more and more and trying to rebalance. And as part of that, then our focus on attracting, retaining and growing IT skills is becoming important. And therefore, our activities from a tech perspective in the community are also upping, I suppose, from a focus perspective. So things like buying into the Institute of Technology and absolutely supportive of the one that's local to us, and also the partnering with others that Bangmare will do to help grow and support talent over the future generations is something that's really important to Nationwide. But there's probably lots of other examples, as per Natasha and Alison, around where we're doing community stuff as well.
Okay, thank you all. So I think it's safe to say, even just from your brief introductions, that your companies actually, the work that you do in your communities extends way beyond the boundaries of the tech industry. And as you say, into charities, into house building and all sorts of things, because obviously you see the importance of the other activities that support your companies as great places to work, and obviously the environment that you want to attract those people into. So I think I might be the first person to mention Brexit today, but it's safe to say, woohoo, that I've just woken my cat up and she's just fled across the room. But it's safe to say that even before C19, lots of our bigger tech companies were making contingency plans around Brexit and trying to understand how that impacted them from a people perspective, as well as an international trading perspective. So, and then COVID kind of came, and Brexit suddenly seemed like it was a walk in the park, and companies suddenly had to do a lot of different recovery planning. So I'd just be interested in understanding a bit more on how you think kind of COVID and an impending recession will impact your business. And given that you do a lot to support your companies, what would you like to see from regional and national government to support your business and enable you to continue growing and developing the way that you currently are in your region?
Shall I go? So I think this is where trying to think of all digital and tech companies as a sector kind of falls away, really, because actually the problems that we're experiencing in Auto Trader aren't much to do with being a tech company. They're very much to do with being part of automotive, which has been hit incredibly hard by COVID in numerous ways. And indeed, we were already reeling from Brexit. Not that we talk about that anymore. So the initiatives that would help automotive would be at a national level, some form of scrappage scheme, for instance, as we saw in the last recession, was actually very effective. You would imagine that something that would work well would be if that was combined with a push towards electric vehicles or something with, kind of sustainability angle, for instance. Those are the things that we would need to see. And I would imagine that the other large tech employers it's very much based on the kind of vertical that they're in. I know we've certainly in Manchester, we've got members in the travel industry, kind of make my worries look small, I think. But then for every company that's maybe having a bit of a hard time, there's almost definitely a tech company that's just seeing a wealth of opportunity, for which Sky may well be in that bucket. So I don't think there's one size fits all really in terms of how the recovery is helped. I think that said, the things that always inhibit our growth they're the same now as they would have been a year ago, really, which is access to talent and skills, of course, and funding. I think the current crisis makes some of those things more acute. They are just harder to deal with as we enter into a recession. But the problem we have in terms of national or, I guess, regional intervention is our short-term problems can only really be fixed by long-term interventions, particularly around talents and skills. And this is where companies very much like Sky and a bit like Auto Trader step in and try and create your own early careers program, sort out your grads, do apprenticeships, and do what you can. But really, you do feel that a more joined up approach to that is the only thing that can that will really accelerate the tech sector broadly, I think.
Okay, I saw Natasha nodding along to that. So do you want to give us your views on that, please, Natasha? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Because it's Thursday, the door is going all the time with really lovely presents. So I just had some flowers around. So using myself in case you just hear the doorbell all the time. In regards to COVID, I think it's a really good example of where businesses needed to, where possible, put customers first. And I think that's all the things that Sky did really well through COVID. For example, sports customers were able to pause their subscriptions until the action has started again. And mobile customers were given 10 gigabytes of extra data to stay connected. And we focused a lot of our entertainment offering on, education, programming for kids, and to make some of our content, or some of our Sky Arts content, for example, available free on YouTube. We're in a slightly different sector to obviously Auto Trader, because people were in lockdown, they were at home, so having access to to great quality programming was probably a high priority at that time. Obviously, we had our own challenges with what we did with sort of call centers and obviously installation. So we had our own challenges to kind of work through as well. But we were obviously in a very good position. I think what I would say as a technologist that this pandemic brought out is a focus really on performance and resilience. And I think that the minute that, we went into lockdown and our call centers, were being scaled back, obviously, with that, and we were getting heightened levels of traffic to digital, and we were okay about it because we'd just recently gone through a massive exercise to look at resiliency on the estate, to look at performance. And so when we were having the record numbers of traffic coming through our estate, we were okay about it. And I think that is, for businesses listening, you don't know what is around the corner, but you do know it within digital and technology about, the basics of stability. And I think these things are things which can be easily put off their nice shiny products and, launches, but actually making sure that your foundations, your bare bones can cope in these situations, and that you have plan Bs and plan Cs. I think that is, if anything, one of the best learnings that we can take out of this, as well as pivoting, which, a lot of businesses have had to do again, and, in lockdown. So I think that, that customer-centric view has been key, but also, making sure that customers can get the best experience in this situation is key.
Okay, thank you. Rob, you've got some thoughts around this?
Yeah, I think COVID's been an interesting one. With hundreds of branches across the UK, and a lot of our members being people that like to go into a branch and speak to a real person rather than do business over digital. We have seen that massive shift. We used to get big spikes of traffic to our mobile app or our website in the morning and the evening when people do online banking. And actually what we've seen through COVID is that's been smoothed out. We're seeing people doing it as they're working through the day, which has actually helped our kind of IT infrastructure massively. What we've also seen is a massive uptake of people switching to digital. So I think we were on average doing maybe 10,000 sign-ups to online banking a week on average. And we were seeing that every day for week after week after week. So that was where our traffic was, which was going to contact centres, and they were being overloaded. So lots of stuff's changed there. So things where you've got contact centres where people working from a building. Now our contact centres, we've got loads and loads of staff. I don't know how many, probably in the thousands, that are working from home, part of a virtual contact centre. So we're looking at using technology in a slightly different way. But I think coming out of COVID, I think the things that we should probably consider are things I mentioned there, that the Institute of Technology, that's kind of been a Department for Education initiative. Actually, they probably need to reflect on COVID and think about the proposition that is the IoT. Now, they've confirmed that they see those as being part of the recovery plans for the UK, which is awesome and a great bit of support. But actually, in terms of how people might learn going forward, and in terms of remote learning and distance learning, rather than necessarily face-to-face, that's probably something that needs to be factored into some of those propositions going forward.
I was going to say, one of the things which is really interesting on that point is also whether the IoT can actually look at their syllabuses and make sure they work with employers to check that what they're teaching is actually representative of what we as anchor businesses
we need. Yeah. And what we need coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
So
every apprenticeship scheme while you're about it, that'd be great. All of those.
Yeah.
So in terms of how you will work going forwards, I mean, obviously you will have large buildings in in cities and large towns. So do you think will the sense of place remain important to you? And given that you can hire, given that we've now moved into a far more comfortable phase of remote working, how do you think business will progress for you in the coming years?
This is such a head scratcher for us at Autotrader. It's been the topic of so many meetings and discussions and Slacks and all the rest of it. We, as a company, we have really, really, really doubled down on having all of our technology people in one place. So part of the way we reshaped our culture when we all moved into Manchester in 2013 was we'd been very heavily reliant on contractors at that point, and we lost all of them pretty much overnight. And then we've been rebuilding our capacity since that time, which is pretty hard to do. Recruiting developers and growing your own is pretty hard to do. We did in the past use offshoring. We stopped all of that. We did in the past twice. We've had a crack at it, I think. Had a kind of offshoot dev house in London where we do have a small office, and we've stopped all of that. So if you apply for a job at Autotrader in any of the tech or tech adjacent disciplines, you have to come to the office. This is where we've been. I mean, we've got super in place, and the amount of hours we're not really that bothered about, but actually the in-person thing is the absolute cornerstone of how we do development. And obviously, we all overnight have ended up working from home, and it's kind of fine. The technology is set up. It's all the tech teams and all the other teams found ways of working, and we're trying to. And lots of people really like it, and lots of people want to keep that option open. And we're absolutely wrestling with what do you lose and what do you gain? So clearly we want our developers to be happy. Ideally, we want everyone to be happy. It's very important in our culture that developers do not get treated differently to people in contact centres, where it's very easy to let one lot work from home than it is for the other lot to work from home, whether they are doing something differently. So it's just an awful lot to weigh up. And I think your attitude to working from home kind of does depend on the sort of company you are. So, Twitter went very early with, from now on it's going to be absolutely fine. Well, maybe if I had people absolutely everywhere all over the globe, I would see the benefit in that. But I think we need to be a bit cautious about embracing it and what it means. And for every person that's having a good time working from home, we have definitely got people struggling from a mental health perspective. Personally, I'm in a city centre flat. it's not been easy. So
okay, I'm just conscious of time, so it's okay. Rob, you were nodding along there. So will the way that you change and your footprint in Swindon change at all?
I don't think we will change. I think we've got offices that have got to a point where they're pretty maxed, shall we say, and therefore looking at other opportunities to move and grow. I think what this has done is present some more opportunities for most of people that work in those offices. Nationwide loves doing things face to face and always has. And what the biggest challenge for the society is move away from that and move to doing some of our interactions virtually. I think this has encouraged and highlighted that it's very possible and that we should do more of it. So I think for me, I think the kind of norm coming out of COVID will be more like we are now than where we were, if that makes sense.
That does.
I kind of embrace it, but I think we'll still do loads of stuff face to face.
Okay, Natasha?
I think it's too premature to make any calls on it. From my perspective, I've really enjoyed working from home. It's got slightly easier with the eldest back at school, but homeschooling and trying to work and having a toddler was the pits. But I've embraced it simply because the connectivity to work sometimes is so challenging that actually for my mental health, it's probably been so beneficial not having to have a disastrous, journey in which it had been up in from sort of March, April time. So from my perspective, we Sky have always allowed a flexible policy. If people want to work from home, that's fine. We've got the tools and opportunities to do that. If people want to job share, that's fine. If people want to do compound hours, that's fine. And I think that, and as an employer, we offer that flexibility, and we've shown that with the lockdown, we've not, halted. We've had many sessions prior to this of sort of BCP days, business continuity days, where we've practiced a day where the office is shut down and ironed out any VPN issues, ironed out any software that we couldn't access from home, so that when we did it, we were okay, and that's been something that's worth trying to do. I can certainly give you anecdotally, outside of Sky, friends who I know who are managing directors of Leeds-based digital agencies who have now said that's it. They are getting rid of their bricks and mortar, and they're not going to rent their offices. And what they're going to do is, based on the views of people who work at that agency, they're going to work from home and hire a really nice sort of meeting room in a hotel once a week, or once a fortnight, twice a fortnight. Treat everyone to slap up breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's going to be a fraction of what they pay for rates, and go in for their stand-ups, their show and tells, their sprint plannings, and have ad hoc meetings when they need to, and coffee shops and all of that. And so I think it's based on scale. With right now we're talking to 3 big employers here, and so for us, the decision of what we do with allowing people to work from home on a more permanent basis is something that we've still got to figure out. But I think, answering your question, I think more SMEs and small organisations will probably embrace this change a lot more radically.
Yeah, okay. Unfortunately, that half hour has flown by, and I feel like we've barely got going. I feel like we should have celebrated more of Natasha's birthday with her. But can I just say a huge thanks to my panel, and we will hopefully over time be able to have these conversations in a more in-depth way at future UK Tech Cluster Group events. Just before you leave to go on to the other sessions, for those of you that weren't with us this morning, if you click on the sessions button on the left-hand side of the screen, you can select one of 3 sessions that will be starting now. And can I also ask you to fill in the polls? You will see where the chat box is, there's a tab to the right of that for polls. If you could share your views on there, we would also be really, really grateful. So once again, thank you very much to my 3 speakers. Really appreciated you taking the time to join us. And everyone else, we will see you in the other sessions. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.